George is so fluffy.
George is fluffy. I was getting ready to cook dinner and Tobias asked me to walk around the farm with him. So dinner can wait for a minute. Hey Georgie Porgy Pudding Pie, did you kiss the girls and make them cry? No, that's my coffee. Kitten George is looking like a particularly majestic beast these days. I actually saw a video the other day of him during the summer and I was like, oh, he looks like such a little twerp with no hair. What are you doing, Tobe? The other day Jeremiah shared with you guys about how we were about to close in this trench and he actually had to cancel the equipment coming because of weather, and so the boys got to keep their little play area for a few more days. It's gonna have to go eventually, but you had it a little longer. Hey Con. This yard over here, which is kind of next to the chicken coop and the garden, I think this is actually going to end up being where we run our turkeys. Actually getting a lot of new birds this year. A whole bunch of chickens, lots of different varieties from Murray McMurray Hatchery, but we're also getting some guineas again, which we used to have several guineas and we had pared it down to only having a few, and we had one for years, and she finally just, I guess, left one day, or I don't know, she never went into a coop, so she was obviously subject to predators. But we're getting guineas again, which I'm really excited about that, and we are getting turkeys. Now we have raised like broad-breasted whites in the past just seasonally, but we are going to be keeping heritage breed turkeys, like breeding them and hatching eggs and all of that stuff. And we're not gonna have a huge flock just so we don't have a ton of space, but we are thinking that this little side yard here, which is a pretty substantial amount of space, we're gonna keep our turkeys in here. And actually one of the things that we have decided to do, and it's not really up for discussion, I know this is gonna break some of your hearts, but we're actually taking out this Bradford pear tree. Now, I have another Bradford pear tree up by my garden. And I actually love Bradford pear trees. I think that they're really beautiful. However, they are very controversial in the horticulture world because essentially, I don't really understand it entirely, but from what I understand, they can cross with some native pear trees, and Bradford pears apparently have very weak genetics as far as like branches breaking and stuff. I don't really know. I always really liked them, and then a few years ago I was actually considering planting another one, and someone told me no, like do not plant Bradford pears because they're like, what that person said was that they were irresponsible trees to plant. So I did some reading about it. I didn't really want to cut down the two that we have because they are beautiful and they flower and they hold onto their leaves longer than any other trees. But this one is really big and it's already had some splitting and some breaking, and Jeremiah wanted to cut it down, to take this fence down and open the area up to be able to make spaces to run more birds through and be able to put gardens back here that we can get to a little easier. And so I finally agreed to let him take down the Bradford pear because primarily, I mean, we need the space, but also I can understand that they may not be the best trees. I don't know. I don't even still, it still makes me a little sad. You want a sip of coffee? There's no sweetener in it.
I'm so thirsty.
Doesn't have any sugar.
Thanks.
This space back here is going to change a lot soon. You're running out of the camera, baby. With taking that tree down, and then up here on this space is going to be an in-ground garden, and then down in this area is going to be an in-ground garden, and we're going to take out all of this stuff. So I'm actually very excited about all of this. Doing some growing in the ground back here. I'm really excited about that. This spot where this chicken coop used to be is going to be so rich and fertile. That's like several inches of compost that's in there. It is a perfect time because the sun's going down. I agree with that. It's wild right now. Like Maya and I were walking out here the other day, and one of our favorite things to do is to just take walks around our farm with a cup of coffee. And for years it's been go around the farm and dream about what it's gonna be like, what we're gonna do, what we're gonna build, what we're gonna expand. Another day we were walking around and I looked at it and I was like, Maya, I think we're almost done. Like, we have been dreaming over this property and working so steadily at it for 6 years. And we're coming to a place that the things that we dreamed are here. And now it's just maintain them. And that's pretty cool. Toby, do you remember when we lived somewhere other than here?
Yeah.
You do? What do you remember about our old house?
When I was dancing on the table at the other house.
You remember
and then Asher danced on it.
Do you remember that, or do you just remember seeing the video of that?
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember about how he had a big yard over there where there's no fences.
Yeah.
That was like big.
Yeah. Look at your dog. He loves you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Gabriel. Toby is definitely my farm boy. The other kids are not quite as attached to it as him. Actually, Jackson and Asher definitely want to live in neighborhoods when they grow up. That's what they said. They don't want to live on the farm. And Ben's not sure. He's thinking that he might like to live in the city, but Ben says he'll always have a garden. And Ezra, I don't know, what does Ezra say? Does he say he wants to always live on a farm?
Maybe.
I don't know that Ezra really has much of an opinion on it yet. Step over the electric wire. Hey guys. Hey little ones. Set my mug down. Not forget it. Hey babies. Hey. Well, here are these babies.
They're pretty big, but not as big as
They have gotten so much bigger.
But not that. They're not that.
They're starting to get hair.
Is that a signal?
I don't think so.
Like right when she did that, they were falling.
Every time I wake the babies up and they go after the mama to nurse, I feel really guilty, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. That comes from having raised 5 babies. Yeah, they're going to get milk. I feel like I need to apologize to her though, because when people woke my babies up, I was not happy about it. What a good mama. This field over here, that is about 2 acres back behind what was my mother-in-law's house before she passed away. This is where Jeremiah cleared out a lot of trees. It's a ton of rocks. We live on a ridge, which for keeping goats is actually a great benefit. I've learned a lot of my friends have struggled with like hoof rot and some different things living in valleys, that because we live in an area that's so rocky, you know, my goats' hooves stay in pretty good condition. We have to trim them, but it's not anything like that. So it's something to keep in mind whenever you're like seeking out a homestead. There are benefits in some ways to living on a ridge. However, growing plants like grass or gardens can be kind of difficult because of the amount of rocks. So if you'll notice alongside this fence, like all of those rocks, and just that's a lot that are piled up here, but there are a lot of rocks throughout this field, a lot. And we've actually lined up some work to be done out here. And a friend of ours does work operating equipment, and basically Maya is hiring him to come out and get a lot of the rocks out of this field. Like, we're gonna basically bring some heavy equipment in and get this to where it's actually a pasture that can grow grass, which is like a huge commodity, especially with as many animals as we're raising. And our hope is basically, with the amount of fencing we already have, what we're putting up, as well as employing some electric fencing and being able to rest some different yards, to be able to do a little more rotation. Total, we have 7 acres here, and we're just a touch overpopulated for the 7 acres. Like ideally, we can make it work. We do buy hay and bring that in, and we're not opposed to doing that. We're okay with buying hay. But we want to learn to rotate as much as we can where we are. And we know that we're not always going to be at this property. This is not like our forever home. This is our classroom, maybe a little more advanced than the one we had before this. And really getting to the point where we've done a lot of what we envision. Now we're kind of getting outside of what we know and learning more and learning how do we do it better. See you, girlies.
So are we going back to...
Hey guys.
Miriam's one of my favorite goats.
Yeah, Miriam's one of my favorite goats too. Do you remember when we got Miriam?
Yes. I remember a picture in my head where we are sitting in the car to show Maggie and Miriam.
Yeah.
Hello.
Miriam, actually, at the time, I was selling chicks at this local animal sale, and somebody walked by with Miriam on a leash. She was probably like 5 months old at the time, and she was so pretty with those long ears. And I asked them how much they wanted for her. It just so happened that the amount of money I had from selling all my chickens, and I had a whole bunch of chicks and ducklings that I'd hatched, how much they wanted. And so I actually brought Miriam home in the back of my minivan, and she pooped in the cup holder. Do you remember that story?
Oh. Where did you get Maggie?
That was towards the end of me being allowed animal impulse buys before Jeremiah vetoed that. There were a few.
Miriam is really my favorite goat. She is so kind, and she's not like Clover.
Yeah, Clover's kind of a butt, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Clover's actually one of my favorite goats, but she's not very nice to the kids. When we were walking around the other day talking, and we were kind of realizing that we've really kind of come to the end of our first 5-year plan, which I always tell you guys, whenever you're homesteading, don't make a 1-year plan, make a 5-year plan. It's just better that way, because it's really easy to get wrapped up in all the things you want. It's easy to get wrapped up in like an urgency to get it all done, and it's just a lot better if you kind of prepare yourself for a little longer haul. Now we know we don't want to stay here forever, but we do know that we're going to be here for a little while. So we kind of started formulating what our next goals are, and one of the things that we talked about to kind of plan towards is possibly cultivating this front yard area into more gardening space. Maybe some more raised beds up here, and actually like landscaping. Maybe doing something with our house to like have flower beds, or, you know, like normal people stuff. I mean, that feels like a good plan, right? Like after we spent the last 6 years focusing on growing food and spending all of our time and money building outside farm infrastructure instead of, you know, like replacing our kitchen cabinets. Maybe now we'll do some normal people stuff. I don't know. Probably not. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I bless you. Until next time. We're actually getting a lot of new birds this year. We ordered...
I'm not gonna
Oh golly. Are you laughing at me?
Yes. We got Gabe.
Gabe is a mess like I am now. Okay, pull yourself together, Jess. It's a black shirt. It won't show. Oh, Lord help me. So we're actually getting a lot of new birds this year.